Today, I'm going to talk to a friend and science educator who has strong opinions about the anti-science that is infecting like a cancer, not just the United States, but the world. Dave Farina, glad to see you again, man.
Howdy. Thanks for having me.
For those who are just now being introduced to you, let's do our due diligence. Who are you? What do you do?
Yeah, I'm a science communicator, and I focus mainly on a YouTube channel called Professor Dave Explains. Started out mainly doing academic tutorials for high school and college students in a variety of topics, mainly science, but then branching out. But for the past 5 years or so, have developed an audience with debunking content where I really aggressively go after these bad faith actors that are peddling lies and pseudoscience and exposing them to the best of my ability. So, yeah.
Your channel is an interesting mix because there's a lot of deep dives into hard science for kids. I say kids, 30-year-olds, who are undergoing master's and PhD types programs in the sciences. So when I say kids, maybe I just betrayed my age. No insult intended. But on top of that, then you go after, some of people like Eric Weinstein. So I guess we'll start there.
Sure.
Who is he and what's your problem with him?
Oh my God, how do we even begin? Eric Weinstein is a pseudo-intellectual fraud who is paid by Peter Thiel to spread anti-science and anti-establishment rhetoric on the internet. He's basically a propaganda mouthpiece. He's a guy who goes on podcasts and pretends to sound as smart as possible to trick gullible lay people into raging against the university system and peer review and all of these institutions that are the way we gather knowledge, the way that we substantiate knowledge.
Hang on, Dave. I'm sorry. He's going hard against peer review?
Oh, yeah. He does it all the time. He did it on the first Piers Morgan segment that I was supposed to be on that I was kicked off at the last minute, I think because Eric said he didn't want me to be part of it. He went on this whole tirade with Brian Keating, like whining about how peer review is like only very recent and it's just like a gatekeeping method and all this stuff. I mean, you know the drill. Like if you're like if peer review is keeping your pseudoscience out of real journals, then it's corruption, right? It's not just the system working the way it's supposed to, and highlighting bad science and preventing it from getting published in real journals, So that's one of his many shticks. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, the guy's got a PhD from Harvard.
Yeah.
Now granted it's mathematics, not biology, but when somebody throws out the degree like that, someone in my position is like, oh shit, PhD Harvard. What do I do with that?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's true. He fumbled his way through a doctorate at Harvard. He's never published anything. Like he's not a scientist, right? Now, the problem is that he is educated, so he's not Terrence Howard, right? He does have the language and he does understand what these words mean, which enables him to better craft his script. So, I mean, the takeaway is, yes, like you don't just go PhD, therefore they're right. You never do that. There are Nobel Prize winners that descend into crack pottery. Luc Montagnier won the Nobel for isolating HIV, and then for a decade or longer has been pushing water memory and all this other crap. Like he's like the quintessential Nobel disease crackpot. So yeah, that someone has a doctorate makes them more likely to be correct, but people with PhDs can be lying frauds. They can be disgusting lying frauds. Eric Weinstein is one such person. So yeah, it's and people who play the credentials game will only do it in one direction, right? They'll do it for Eric, but then anybody, like I recently did a piece covering, he had a spat with Sean Carroll on Piers Morgan as well.
Now, who is Sean Carroll? Forgive me. Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, Sean is a real physicist, right? He it's not like he's the most prominent physicist in the game or anything. He's a working physicist, a respected working physicist who is also an extremely popular science communicator. So he has tremendous contribution with science communication, but is also a working physicist. So if your big thing is, look at all, looking for a PhD, but you ignore all of the working physicists who step up and expose Eric, right? Which has been happening increasingly. I've had several on my channel working physicists go through his geometric unity, which is his incredible theory of everything, which he released on April Fool's Day in 2021, saying this is a work of entertainment. It's not supposed to be taken seriously, only to then go on the podcast circuit for years whining about how academics won't take him seriously. And he's being, pushed out of the conversation. It just serves his whole anti-establishment paranoia, conspiracy peddling. But really what he was doing was just avoiding scrutiny as long as possible, right? Nobody educated actually look at this thing so I can go on podcasts and use all of my jargon and look as smart as possible so then I can then spew my ridiculous Peter Thiel funded agenda. But then, it caught up to him. People started actually looking at it and going, wow, this is a gigantic piece of crap. What are you doing? Pretending that this is something that anybody educated should be looking at. And so he's really descended in the past 6 months or so. I want to say it's been a joint effort. I did a huge piece on him and his brother last year, but then the Sean Carroll thing and then the blowback from that, he's pretty universally recognized to be a complete fraud now. And the blowback in the Thiel sphere is compounding because people like Sabina Hassenfelder are going to his defense. And then by proxy, people are going, oh, wait, okay, so she's a fraud too. It's incredibly hilarious. Kurt Jaimungal, Brian Keating, all these sycophants are being exposed one by one, not simply, but largely due to their willingness to defend the blatantly fraudulent Eric Weinstein. It's quite delightful.
Well, you mentioned Peter Thiel. This is the billionaire oligarch puppeteer behind much of the bullshit that's been happening in the United States. Extremely well-funded and dangerous. You want to speak specifically to Thiel before I move on?
Sure. I mean, he has his hands in Palantir and the Orwellian surveillance systems that are being put into place. He basically handpicked the vice president. He was like, J.D. Vance, you're vice president now. In so many words, that's essentially what happened. He's just he's a billionaire wanting to do billionaire things, which includes like a huge part of it is control, right? If you want to, when you have a situation, when you have a wealth inequality like we do today with just this rampant unfettered capitalism where we're seeing the 0.001%, right? The top handful richest people getting wealthier and wealthier and wealthier at this alarming rate while more and more people, right? The middle class is shriveling and so many people are below the poverty line. How do you maintain that transference of wealth, right? Nobody's willingly going to coalesce with that. So you have to manipulate them. It requires propaganda. And all of the propaganda is centered around getting people to distrust scientists, institutions of higher learning. Basically, anybody that's telling the truth has to be demonized so that people's behavior can be controlled, their consumer behavior, their voting behavior. They want to keep people in office that are basically just completely subservient to the oligarchy, which is epitomized by the Trump administration, obviously. And this is the name of the game. And so Thiel needs mouthpieces, right? He needs pawns to disseminate his propaganda on the internet. Eric Weinstein, number one, right? And that's not even speculative. Like, he's been on the Thiel payroll on paper for 15 years or whatever. So others, I've speculated Sabina Hassenfelder, and I've made a lot of content about that. I can't prove it, but that to me is clear as day. But this is the currency he deals with, right? It's an optics game, and he needs people on the internet spreading this message and manipulating and twisting public perception against real scientists and against universities and against federal institutions that regulate the private sector, right? EPA and HHS, right? We're going to talk about RFK and in a minute. All of these institutions must be gutted. Their ability to regulate the private sector rendered obsolete. That's the playbook, essentially.
Well, I mean, as far as the power player with too much power, far too much power, I read in The Independent that Elon Musk has control over 2/3 of the active satellites in space right now. I mean, how much power? And of course, many people are like, boy genius, Elon Musk. And I'm just thinking, Jesus, really?
No, I mean, Elon is, it's like, it's hard for me to comment on that guy because I don't really, I'm not good with tech. So it's like, I don't understand what's on the horizon, and it's hard to get a read on him. I know that he's just interested in himself and ballooning his wealth and his influence. And the whole Doge debacle was a farce, and then it's been really hilarious watching the fallout between him and Trump on Twitter and things.
He's wanting to go to Mars for a while. I'm just like, folly with so much suffering on this world. And he's like, well, now we need to go colonize Mars. And I'm like, well, why not? We colonized Earth and we totally fucked it up. So why don't we fix it here instead of looking at this really I think the physicist said this is just bullshit. This idea that humans are going to relocate. I know that's not your field either, but I wondered if you had an opinion about it.
Well, look, I mean, why not? I mean, sure, colonize Mars, set up a Mars base and send people. Like, there's nothing wrong with space colonization is cool and we should totally do it. But when this kind of rhetoric is being pushed by oligarchs that are part of this cabal that are throttling any attempt at regulation of fossil fuels, this is all activity that is ruining Earth and ruining human society. So you can, on the one hand, be like, oh, we needed this escape hatch, we're going to go live in Mars because everything is going to be bad here, when you're the people who are ruining it here. You're specifically the ones that are making it impossible to institute regulations to save the climate, and just in general are worsening wealth and inequality. So it's not like he obviously wants to make it sound like he's a champion of the people, but he's just the richest guy alive trying to get way richer by whatever means possible.
Okay, you mentioned the actor Terrence Howard. Oh, he's a piece of work.
Yeah,
he's on Rogan, and he's been in some amazing films like Prisoners and the first Iron Man film. But he also said he could build the Milky Way galaxy with gravity and a bunch of just wacky stuff. Tell me gravity. About Terrence Howard, would you?
Yeah. Terrence Howard is a genuinely mentally ill, delusional narcissist who has convinced himself he's the greatest genius in human history and has revolutionized physics and mathematics and chemistry and all this stuff. And I think he really believes it on some level. And so he had a moment of virality about a year ago, and I kind of usurped it. I took advantage of it and got my own little viral moment because I've done a few pieces on him, but the first one that I did based on his first Rogan appearance, I don't think Rogan will touch him anymore because the backlash has been like, dude, what is going on? Like, who is falling for this stuff? But he's just completely insane, spews utter nonsense word salad with science buzzwords that he doesn't know what they mean, and pretends to be a genius. And I mean, it's interesting because the second piece I did on him was when Eric Weinstein went on Rogan with Terrence to talk about all this stuff that Terrence says. And it's fascinating because they're basically the same, except that Eric knows what he's talking about a lot more than Terrence does. Obviously, he understands math. But they're both just trying their hardest to sound intelligent to generate a cult following. They're exactly the same in their intent. And they're relying on the same anti-establishment, anti-academia narrative. So my second piece was dunking on Terrence some more, but also dunking on Eric trying to navigate this terrain of simultaneously putting himself way above Terrence, which he is, but also lambasting the academic community. How dare Neil deGrasse Tyson insult Terrence by responding with this very polite video response, critiquing his gibberish, and, how dare they, ice him out of peer review. Peer review, the guy can't do second grade math. Like, what do you mean peer review? There's nothing to talk about here. So it's just it's a weird, I mean, Rogan in general is just a complete circus sideshow.
He's just having conversations, right? And you and I bang our heads against the wall. You talk about these PhD types, which brings me into the Discovery Institute. And these aren't people who, like Ken Hovind, got his degree from a shack in Colorado.
Right.
I mean, you got Stephen Meyer, you got Dr. Michael Behe, you got Dembski, and a few others. You don't see them in peer review, but you certainly do see them online, and they're writing and selling their books, etc. You have spoken about often the Discovery Institute. You want to tell everybody what the issue is there?
Sure. Yeah. Eric Weinstein is to Terrence Howard as Meyer and Behe and those guys are to Kent Hovind, right? You have your bottom level raving lunatics that most people can tell are full of shit, but then you have this elevated version where, look at me, I'm speaking, I'm dressed a certain way and I'm speaking very clearly in a scholarly sounding manner. And there's there's problems with evolution, and the the evolutionists don't want us. There's corruption in the journals, and so we can't publish in the peer review because it goes against the orthodoxy of the. No, it's just bullshit. You're just lying, but you're doing so with this terminology that is difficult to penetrate, right? It's whereas Kent Hovind, if you got a B or better in 9th grade biology, you can go, well, that sounds ridiculous. With the Discovery Institute stuff, you have to have a certain level of understanding of whatever topic they're lying about, and they lie about molecular biology, anthropology, geology, all of it, right? And so I've definitely made quite a stir with them. I'm kind of my face is on a dartboard over there somewhere because I just have taken them to task so hard. I have an entire series where I just go down the roster and nail every single one of them, and just very undeniably, here's what they say the paper says, here's what the paper actually says, here's the primary author of that paper acknowledging that they're lying about his paper, just really very clearly outlining how everything they say is a lie and outlining the agenda, right? They work for wealthy Christian nationalists. The idea is to get religion taught in public schools as a move towards the erosion of separation of church and state. Very nasty theocratic intent type stuff, which is very much in line with the move towards fascism that we're seeing from this administration. So,
I was given, I don't know, people give you books because people like to give me books. They're like, here's a book, just read all of this and we'll explain why you're wrong, kind of thing. And I think one of the more memorable ones, I was given the book, The Dawkins Delusion by Alistair McGrath. And I asked, okay, fine. What's the angle? What's the book say? And they said, well, I haven't actually read it, but I know that it's true.
Right.
And so they gave it to me. And then I was given Stephen Meyer's Signature in the Cell, saying that, within our very cellular structure, there is evidence that an intelligence put it all together. You familiar with the book?
Yeah, I did a piece, a 90-minute piece on Meyer and went through his books. Mainly, he has one that's mainly on the Cambrian explosion, where he lies all about that. And then Signature in the Cell is just him fumbling high school level genetics concepts. Yeah.
Let me throw another name out, another entertainer, comedian. And of course, we want to congratulate Russell Brand on his recent conversion to Christianity.
Oh, yeah.
You want to talk about Russell Brand and what the hell's going on?
Russell Brand, it's very easy to explain. The right wing is a haven for sexual abusers, pedophiles, all that kind of stuff. He got caught with a lot of sexual abuse allegations. He's been a cheeky, naughty little monkey for quite some time. And it kind of caught up to him. And so he pivoted to become an alt-right grifter. And now he's selling magic healing amulets, and he converted to Christianity to really drive it home. And now he's just some jerk with a podcast that spews conservative talking points, all kinds of anti-vax crap, and is now like pro-Trump and everything, and it's really embarrassing.
Come on, Dave. I mean, he met Jesus. He was baptized last year in the River Thames. It's almost like a murderer, or someone guilty of domestic abuse or some heinous crime, and they go to prison and they find Jesus, and then that's the story they tell the parole board. Right. That's the vibe I get, Dave.
Pretty much that, yeah. Like, look at how this fabricated morality to divert, to distract from all of the blatantly immoral things that I do. I'm
speaking here with science educator Dave Farina. You published or produced a video called the Grifter Tier List. Who's the biggest scumbag I've debunked? Now, I'll admit I just saw the title and didn't have time to watch the video before we chatted today. You want to spoil it for me? I mean, who's the bottom of the barrel for you right now?
Give you the number one? Yeah, I went through the whole list. I realized after the fact, and from a lot of comments, that I actually missed like 5 people. I thought I went through the list and got everybody, but no, it was a resounding win for Andrew Wakefield. Andrew Wakefield is the biggest piece of shit I've ever debunked. That would be the one.
Now, this is the guy who is behind the pseudo-documentary Vaxxed. Is that right? Is it Wakefield or Malone? One of those two.
No, not Malone. Yeah, Wakefield had a hand in it. I think it was Del Bigtree. There was some people, a number of people.
Yeah, I think it was Wakefield who was behind it, and it's a complete anti-vax smear job on pretty much the entire scientific community. It's a horror show.
Absolutely
right?
Disgraceful. Yeah, I mean, what he's the most famous for is penning the late 90s study in the Lancet. It's the first attempt at the MMR vaccine autism link. So everything that you see, every time you hear people talking about vaccines causing autism, it all stems from this one fraudulent study. You had these injury lawyers that wanted an excuse to sue vaccine manufacturers, so they bribed this guy Andrew Wakefield. He was a gastroenterologist into making this study. It was incredibly unethical. Lumbar punctures and all, and all kinds of invasive procedures on children that were known to have autism prior to getting MMR. Fabricated all the data, just complete bullshit study, was later retracted, but it stuck, and just decades later, he's still heralded as this champion, that whistleblowing hero that now is just, he's just purely an anti-vax character on the internet.
It's a lose-lose, because the more he's debunked, the more he's like the rogue whistleblower going up against the system. He's the hero we need. There's almost nothing you can do with that, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously a valid point. I think that it just depends how thoroughly you eviscerate them. So I think that if you really, really do a good job, the information gets out there, and then you have people that 2 things happen. Number one, you have people who are not familiar with what's going on, and they're ready to be influenced by whatever media they see. So you better make sure they see yours first and not theirs, because theirs is manipulative and full of lies. So if they see mine first, they're going to go, they're inoculated, ironically, to whatever they're going to see from them. And then number 2, you arm the populace with the correct talking points and the correct way to rebut these ridiculous anti-vax talking points, so that they can have a small amount of influence in their personal circles and fight it on the ground in the trenches, so to speak. But it has to be done. I mean, it's just, you can't just do nothing. You know what I mean? I wrestle with this too, but doing nothing for so long is what got us to where we are today. Academics saying, this is beneath me. I don't have to pay attention to this. This is just idiots, raving on a street corner. It doesn't affect me. Yes, it does. Public perception of science and the resulting voting behavior that is tethered to a growing anti-science mentality brought us the Trump administration, who is slashing funds for science across the board. The ability to do science has been dramatically dampened, and it is specifically due to public perception of science. So it cannot be ignored. We have to be doing this. We have to be aggressively exposing these frauds. And I'm seeing in the past couple months this very slight shift in what I view to be the correct direction. I'm a bit biased because it's my way of doing it, but just it's epitomized by the way Gavin Newsom is trolling the hell out of Trump right now, using his style of tweeting to combat what he's doing. Just the disgusting toxicity of these figures, it needs to be mirrored back to them. It needs to be reflected back to them. They need to be treated the way that they treat other people. So I've been doing that for a few years, and I'm starting to see a little bit of that kind of activity from others, and they're They don't know what to do with it, right? They can't handle being treated that way. They're used to very, oh, that's actually incorrect because if you look at this paper, doesn't work, does not do anything.
No, I like that. I mean, I think we call that demonstrating absurd or exposing absurdity by being absurd.
Yeah.
I buy that. I also like the idea of pre-bunking, not debunking. You get in front of it and you sort of prep people, give them a bullshit detection kits. Let me ask you, I brought up Robert Malone, physician who has some very, very problematic opinions on COVID and the COVID vaccine. I don't understand this, but Malone had said vaccines damaged T-cell responses and caused a form of AIDS. Can you tell me what that means and whether it's right or wrong?
Well, does it mean? I mean, it's just completely fabricated, right? This is a guy who got famous spreading the lie on podcasts that he developed the mRNA vaccines. No, he didn't. The people who did won a bunch of awards for that because they saved millions of lives. He had some very tangential affiliation with some research that had something to do with mRNA, but he absolutely did not develop these vaccines. He's just another lying fraud going on the podcast circuit, pretending to be a whistleblower, and the establishment is silencing me. And no, it's just a bunch of bullshit to generate this cult following. That's it.
Which brings me back to vaccines, which means RFK Jr. I spoke to cell biologist Dr. Ken Miller about RFK. I don't want to cover too much familiar ground, but I can't not ask you about RFK Jr. and the war on science and scientists and the unbelievable Everest-sized mountain of bullshit that he has been spreading.
Yeah.
I think he's getting people killed. Not he will, but I think it's already happening. What are your thoughts?
Already happening. First of all, the magnitude of the layoffs at CDC, FDA, it's insane. He's just getting rid of anybody that is going to that has any intellectual integrity and is going to stand in the way of his state-sanctioned pseudoscience. He got rid of the entire vaccine safety panel, filled it with Robert Malone and these other guys that are just anti-vaxxers. Just like the EPA is now full of climate change deniers, right? It's just this insane situation in the Trump administration where everybody in every department is directly antithetical to the purpose of that department. So the vaccine safety panel is full of anti-vaxxers, which means they no longer recommend certain vaccines. And if those vaccines are not officially recommended by the federal institution, then certain programs that previously offered those vaccines for free to low-income children because they're recommended by the government are no longer able to provide them, right? So poor kids cannot get these vaccines that they were supposed to get before going to school. Can't get them anymore. And so people will die. Children will die. No two ways about it. And this is not new. Blood is already on his hands. There was a measles outbreak in Samoa not too long, less than a decade ago. 83 people dead, all his fault. He went over there, met with anti-vaccine activists, convinced everybody that there was an issue with a batch of vaccines, fueled vaccine hesitancy, big measles outbreak, 83 people dead, his fault. He murdered those people. So it's he's ramping up to do it here.
What are your thoughts on the claim that COVID is just a big moneymaker for the hospitals? The hospitals, they're calling everything COVID so that they can fill their pockets, and big pharma and all of that. Do you want to speak to that at all?
I mean, how are you going to pull off a conspiracy like that? A global conspiracy, every single healthcare provider in every single country, what degree are we talking here? Like there's the bottom of the ladder is that COVID doesn't even exist, or that viruses don't even exist. If you want to go higher and they're calling it COVID and it's not. I mean, you can come up with a conspiracy like that about absolutely anything. At what point do we just go, look, viruses exist, pandemics exist, they happen. This is a pandemic that happened and a bunch of people died. Why is that such a hard pill for people to swallow?
No, it's almost like flat Earth, right? You think about the magnitude of the conspiracy. The implication is that like the entire airline industry would have to be in on the cover up, all world governments, every space agency, meteorology. I mean, the idea that they're all sitting in a star chamber, twirling their mustaches, fooling the rest of us is so unbelievably batshit crazy.
Yeah, the number of people that are behind it are outnumber the mark, right? You've got 6 billion people in on it and 2 billion that are, it's like it just completely unravels. I don't know what to do with it.
So, anti-vax, Bill Maher. Now, Dave.
Yeah.
I used to think Bill Maher was okay. I never really, followed him. But I watched Religulous, and I thought, it's nice to see him go hard at religion until he got into the Jesus-Horus connection. It was totally a lazy overreach. And then I started to, raise an eyebrow. Hey, wait a minute. Maybe he's not doing his due diligence. And then he's fallen for some batshit stuff out there. You want to talk about Bill Maher? I mean, he's out there banging his drums,
Yeah, Bill Maher sucks a lot. I mean, Religulous, let's give him a point for figuring out that fundamentalist religion is stupid. Congratulations, you're as smart as an average 12-year-old, intelligent 12-year-old. It's not that hard to figure out that fundamentalist religion is stupid. No, he's been a smug douche for a long time, but it's gotten way worse in the past few years. He's gotten way anti-woke. He's just completely fallen for that whole movement, and he's also a gigantic Zionist piece of shit. So I don't know if you want to get into that, but
sure, Israel at all costs kind of thing, right? No matter what Netanyahu does, he must be supported, right?
Yeah, he's just way pro-Israel, which is absolutely indefensible. I mean, it's been indefensible since Israel formed, but especially, I think, through the current genocide. I think in the first 6 months or so, people who were not educated about the history of Israel and the history of the subjugation of the Palestinian people and the occupation and everything didn't know and were thus privy to Israeli propaganda. And so I want to have a little bit of sympathy and let them have had a little bit of time to come around. But today, if you're pro-Israel today, get the fuck out of here. What are you doing? You've had this long. You've had almost 2 years now to just take 30 seconds of your time and go look at what's happening in Gaza. Go follow any Gazan journalist. Look at all of the images and videos of all the blown up children, all the hospitals blown up, all the journalists murdered, everything that's happening, the starvation that's happening now. If you're still pro-Israel today, you have no excuse. Bill Maher has no excuse, and he should just be mocked until the end of time, mainly for his Zionism, but also secondarily for all this anti-woke bullshit that he peddles. It's just like a Rogan manosphere thing that he's riding, and it's pretty ridiculous.
Dave Farina and I have this in common. For better or worse, we both appeared recently on Piers Morgan. Now, Dave, I was contacted because Piers wanted to talk about the Shroud of Turin. He had a couple of PhDs, right? And so he had one who was a first century. This has all been miracle. There was divine light that burned the image and and here's a crucifixion spike and buy my book. And then there was another PhD who was like, well, that's a bunch of bullshit. This is almost certainly medieval era, human made. This is not the miracle. Even though I believe in, he was a Christian. He's like, even though I believe in God, the Christian God, the shroud is bullshit. Yeah. It's something else. And then they're like, well, they must have Googled atheist. And they're like, hey, you want to come join? They promised equal time, so I got 4 minutes at the end. And mostly, I mean, I'm not qualified. I'm not an expert in medieval times. I don't know first century history in that way. I'm not a carbon dating expert, but I do talk Jesus a lot, so that was mostly my angle. But I'm not a Piers Morgan fan. I mostly went because I was invited. It's a platform. It's a chance to sort of anti-BS the conversation. You're not a Piers Morgan fan either, right?
No, I would not say I'm a fan. And it's very interesting because it's 3 times. Number 1, I was asked to go on to talk about the Terrence Howard stuff with Eric Weinstein and a couple other people. And then I was dropped at the last minute, I believe. I can't prove it, but I think Eric Weinstein was like, get rid of this guy. The second time I was asked to come on to talk about some trans stuff, but I had a conflict, and so I had to decline. But then this time, they actually asked me for the Shroud of Turin. They said, we want you either for the RFK one or the Shroud of Turin. And like you, I was like, well, look, Shroud of Turin, it's bullshit. We carbon dated it to like 1200 or something like that. but I don't have like, I didn't know. And they always contact you like, can we do it in 2 hours from now? And so I'm like, I don't have time to like go figure out all the bullshit everyone is saying about the Shroud of Turin today. So no to that, but yes to RFK, because I just a month or two ago did a very long, like 2-hour RFK piece going into all of his bullshit. So I was like, I'm ready to go on that one. Let's do it.
This shows you, by the way, why I'm rightly lower in the hierarchy. There are probably a dozen other names under yours before they got to me. And it was like, hey, we're on at noon. Can you go right now? And I was like, holy shit.
I'm always just like, could you give me 48 hours? Like, it would be nice to like, because it's weird. Like, I don't know how you feel. I don't know what your exact, if your precise expertise is more philosophy or history or anything like that. Mine is chemistry, but I'm a generalist. And so I make content on a lot of stuff like archaeology and things like that. So if somebody I forgot, they contacted me another time to talk about archaeology stuff just because I had a semi-viral piece debunking Graham Hancock and his loser acolytes. And I was like, look, man, I'm not an archaeologist. I made a great piece. That's a great, bit of content for people to get educated from, but I'm not going to be the guy. So I said, why don't you talk to Flint Dibble and Milo Rossi? And so they actually went on for that segment. I sent it over there, but yeah, you're right. Like they don't know who knows what. They're just contacting anybody with a certain level of following. And like, you want to do it? We don't care if you're prepared or not. We don't care if you knock it out of the park or humiliate yourself. We're just filling the segment. So, either way, if you kill it, you great views. If you tank, great views for like, it doesn't matter to them. So
it was, my angle was, in my wheelhouse is counter-apologetics, specifically in relation to Christianity. I'm an ex-evangelical, and I've done 16 years of this type of stuff. We can get into Jesus. Let's talk Jesus.
Sure.
So rather than focus on the shroud, hey, we'd like to talk about the magical cave cloth. I was like, well, hang on. Let's talk about the myth that the whole cave cloth story is built on. And let's talk about the Bible that presents that story. And so I actually went back to more of a root thing. And, that was my wheelhouse. And I think that was the more productive place to go. Oh, this piece of cloth is magical is not that interesting to me. But Piers himself, his history is so problematic. He's so tabloidy. Yeah. I debated, but, I couldn't say no for a few reasons. So I don't know. Piers Morgan.
I mean, you're right. Like, he is problematic, and it's just interesting. Like, it's been fascinating to see him flip on Israel, because at first he was all, do you condemn Hamas? Do you condemn Hamas? Do you condemn Hamas? Every 10 seconds. And now he's like very anti-Israel. He's very pro-Palestine, but it's totally for optics. Like, he watched the optics flip on the conflict and was like, that's the winning side. Now I'm going to voice that. So it's like, on the one hand, purely in terms of optics, great, one more person taking Israel to task, but it's so seedy the way that he does it. But in general, my view of it is the same as like, if like Joe Rogan knows who I am. He mentioned my name on an episode once. And so people were like, do you think he'll invite you on? I'm like, I don't think he will, but would you go on if he did? I'm like, I would. Like, I did go on Piers Morgan. I would go on Joe Rogan. I would go on these, because it whether you want it to exist or not, the platform exists, and it has the influence that it does whether you go on it or not. And so you have an opportunity to prepare thoroughly and go on that platform and make it bend to your agenda, what you want to do with that access, with that reach. And so that's my view of it. It doesn't have to be viewed as like I'm supporting the Piers Morgan platform. It's I'm accessing his audience and the eyeballs that he has access to say the facts that I need to get to these people.
Yeah, sure. You get the Joe Roganites in this disinformation silo. It may be the only chance they have to be presented with contrary ideas. I was
100%.
asked, hey, Seth, I go hard after Fox News, and I used to be that guy. I was a Rush Limbaugh and Coulter Fox Newser back in my day.
Wow.
And of course, now I go hard at Fox, and they're like, well, if Fox News for some reason was to invite you to appear, would you do it? And I'm like, Hell yeah. I mean, as long as I could say what I wanted to say. And my first question would be, why are you guys Dear Leader State Television? You know, I mean, because that would be a refreshing thing for the Fox viewership to hear. They might send me a pipe bomb, but I think it has to be said, right?
Yeah, mix it up. Go on there, blow it up from the inside. Just dismantle whatever platform you're given an access to. Go on it and do what you want to do. Do what you have to do with it. Yeah.
Do you ever watch Pete Buttigieg? That guy's a master. That guy, every time they try to push him into a corner or ambush him, he devastates them, and he does so with such an even voice. It's masterful.
Yeah, I very quickly was like, oh, you're my number 2 after Bernie. He's a smart guy. Yeah.
So you mentioned trans issues and the biology of transgenderism. This is a hot button even within the free thought community. I've seen people who are like, it's the religion of trans or the religion of woke or the anti-woke or you're a transphobe, and everybody's throwing out these things. I know there are some out there who are navigating what is uncharted territory, and they genuinely don't know what to think.
Yeah.
So you tell me, as far as an educator goes, how would you explain transgender to people who are curious about whether or not it's science or anti-science?
Yeah, and this is one of the peer segments as I was responding to the fallout of the Freedom from Religion Foundation debacle with Richard Dawkins, Jerry Coyne, Steven Pinker, who unfortunately represent the part of the intelligentsia that is swinging this anti-woke way, pseudoscientific way. It's basically just...
If I may, quickly... Sure. Dr. Jerry Coyne, the evolutionary biologist, had written a piece that was signal boosted by FFRF at the time, which I think they apologized for afterwards.
Yes.
But he said, biology is not bigotry. And he was blasted. And then a bunch of the A-tier freethinker types came forward and they stood with him, resigned from the board. It was a big blow up.
Yes.
And everybody shouting at each other over it. So I'm sorry, I'll take it from there if you want, Dave.
Yeah. So I made a whole piece on exactly this. It was called More Things That I Was Supposed to Say on Piers Morgan, because the first time I got booted from the segment. The second time I had a conflict, but I made a piece. This is what I would have said if I was on talking to Jerry Coyne about all of this bullshit. Yeah, there's just this very insidious... The right is using trans issues to polarize people to the right by offering these ridiculous straw men of like, liberals think men can have babies and they don't, there's 27 genders or whatever the hell. Has nothing to do with any of that. All we're saying is that there is sex and there's gender identity. Sex refers to a suite of biological characteristics. It is definitely, first of all, it's not binary. They like to say that it's just gametes, right? You got sperm or egg. Well, that doesn't work because prepubescent boys don't produce sperm. So are they not male until they produce, right? There's all these kinds of logical gaps in this kind of thinking. So sex refers to gametes, gonadal apparatus, hormones, sex chromosomes, different primary and secondary sexual characteristics. It's this suite of characteristics. And then gender identity is a neuroanatomical construct. There is such a thing as experiencing being male or female. It is correlated with specific brain structures. Now, I get hit all the time just because I reference primary scientific literature that is investigating this. It doesn't mean that we have this like overarching very solid comprehension of it, but we have identified regions of the brain that correlate with gender identity and sexuality. There's often overlap there, but they are two different phenomena. And so that's being trans is when your sex and gender identity do not align. That's all. So when you have a trans woman, let's say, that is the vernacular that we have developed to refer to somebody that was born of male sex but has female gender identity. We refer to them as a trans because the sex and gender identity do not align, and then we refer to them as trans women as a courtesy to dignify them, right? So if it's a linguistic thing, it's never the case that conservatives acknowledge what I just said about male sex, female gender identity, but let's not call them trans women. It's always just, you're denying biology and all this stuff. It's absolutely not the case. They just absolutely want to stick to this third grade understanding of boy's penis, girl's vagina, and refuse to look at any of the science that is referenced, and just continue going, you think men can have babies. Which men? What are you talking about? Are you talking about cis men? Because no, nobody has ever said that. Are you talking about trans women? Because no, nobody has ever said that. Are you talking about trans men? Yes, they can, because they have uteruses, because they are a female sex. So it's just it's nothing but distortion, completely bad faith, absolutely refusing to engage with any of the commentary on the side of science. And then they hide behind, unfortunately, figures like Dawkins and Coyne, who have sort of fallen for this anti-woke fad. And they go, see, look, the biologists agree with us. Yeah, they just don't. They're just really old and cantankerous and refuse to learn something new. That's all it is. So
I'm sorry you have joined the religion of woke.
Yeah.
That's usually what I see in the comments section.
Exactly.
That's an argument or something. I'm like, well, first define woke, because that's apparently the jello that you can nail to the wall or something like that.
They just shit their pants and have nothing to say every time. Nobody can define woke. No conservative can define woke. You can humiliate them every time. No fail.
It's the boogeyman of the 21st century. It's the equivalent in some ways of when it came to gay rights, and they were like, well, what's next?
Identical.
Sex with animals? That was the first place that conservatives went, right?
100% identical, and nobody has learned their lesson, because in the 70s or 70s, 80s, kind of when people were like, it's not mental illness, right? It's a way that you can be. Most people are attracted to the opposite sex. Some people are attracted to the same sex. And by the way, just like everything else in biology, it's a spectrum. There are various gradations of bisexuality and so forth, and asexuality and whatever. And nobody learned their lesson on the right. Nobody has the foresight to go, that again, but with a different thing. Nobody can do it. So it's really frustrating.
People want everything to fit in a box, and then they either worship the box or crush the box, right?
Yeah, it's this very childlike insistence on everything fitting this binary mode. So going back to sex, right? They'll say sex is binary. Well, no, it isn't, because look, you have all of these different characteristics, and most of them don't know that these conditions exist, where you can have XY sex chromosomes but express female genitals, or XX chromosomes and express male genitals. And so it's like you have these different characteristics that are associated with male or female, and they don't align, right? Binary code is 0 and 1, not a half or 3/4 or 1.27. 0 and 1, two states. You do not have that with sex, because it refers to this suite of biological characteristics that do not always align. So it definitively is not binary. And everybody who pretends that it's gametes only that determine sex, you are wrong. I'm sorry. If you remove a woman's ovaries, they're still a woman. If you a prepubescent boy that's not producing sperm, still male. It is not sufficient. It is not sufficient to look at gametes alone to define sex. That's not how we do it. It's a suite of characteristics. So,
speaking about the fears, I was fear of everything. We were afraid of trans people. We were afraid of foreigners. We were afraid of Muslims. We were afraid. Don't shake hands with a gay person, or be in their vicinity, because you never know. They might turn you gay by osmosis, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So that's just a culture. I
Culture
guess.
of fear, 100% has been around for a long time and pervades to this day.
Teachers are allowing kids to shit in litter boxes in high school bathrooms. It's just a crazy world. Dave, before I let you go, let's just talk like real people, as if we haven't already been doing that. I'm not a pessimist. I'd like to think I'm kind of a realist, but I've harbored hope. I used to think, things are, there are people out there who were like me. They were brainwashed. They were in disinformation silos. They have not had the benefit of what has been called the knowledge economy. They just need a chance. Good people can have bad ideas. I've been that guy. I want to be that guy, but I will make a confession to you that I look, after 10 years of the insanity and the cruelty and the horribleness that's going on, I will admit that in that dark space, when nobody's looking, what I'm thinking is, these people are fucking stupid and they're not reachable. I don't know what, I don't know. Be my bartender, Dave. I mean, what do you think?
I mean, look, I'm with you on it, unfortunately. I have gotten significantly more pessimistic over the past 5 years or so. And it's not so much like, yes, people are stupid and many of them are unreachable, but it's not so much how stupid they are. It's more how insidious and unrelenting the propaganda is, right? If it weren't for that, I think they would be reachable. I think they could be reasoned with. And I think that we would see a very slow progress towards rationality. But they are just getting slammed every day with more and more sophisticated, tech bro fueled, technocrat fueled, deliberate disinformation that is aimed at manipulating the public. And it's only going to get worse with AI and deepfakes, and what Musk has turned Twitter into is just this like disinformation central paradise for spreading lies on the internet. And it's just so like it's not an even match. It's not an even match between the liars and the truth tellers, right? We're on this side where we're just like making YouTube videos and trying to reason with people. The other side is billionaires constructing social media landscapes that are just completely aimed at ruining epistemology and making it impossible for people to know what the hell is going on. And it's going to get worse.
Now, I look forward to the day that somebody at the Discovery Institute, or I don't know, just somebody on TikTok makes a deep fake of you admitting that intelligent design was right all along. I mean, this is the world we live in, right? Where it's the post-truth era.
It is the post-truth era, and we are not. The tunnel is dark.
But you are a light in that tunnel. Do you see how I brought us full circle?
Trying to be.
See that, Dave? Yeah.
Trying my best. Yeah.
How do people find you and your work before I let you go?
Professor Dave Explains on YouTube. That's about it.
All right. Dave Farina, thanks for spending almost an hour, I don't know, venting, humoring me anyway. It's always a pleasure to hang out.
Happy to do it. It's cathartic.
All right. We'll talk again, man.
Sounds good. Thank you.